All right, now for the final part of this insanity. We're going to take this gun here and we're going to cut it up to multiple tiny little pieces for 3D printing, and then kind of arrange them to follow it pretty easily. To do that, we can actually do something very, very cool. Do one quick change here. Let's get rid of all the modifiers first. There we go. All the modifiers have been moved. All right, now let's start making this thing 3D printable. Now the cool thing is this part's actually a pretty simple part of the process. I'm going to create a new collection. I'm going to call this Printable Parts. And in it, I'm going to include everything. To do that, I'm just going to hit double select, Control D, which duplicates everything. Then do Alt C, convert the entire thing to a mesh. Like so. Hit G, slide it up here. I've got this whole other thing to work with. And I'm going to unselect that gun down there. Actually, first of all, before I do that, I'm going to move all of this to printable parts. Including this piece. Printable parts. Printable parts. I'm going to unselect the old part right there. Now, all the modifiers have been applied to everything here. All the transforms, all the scaling, everything. And so all we have to do now is just arrange them however we want to arrange them. I'm not sure I'm super happy with the way this is set up, so I might tweak that a little bit. So I'm realizing I don't like how far this is indented here. It's a little bit much. So perhaps we'll add a little insert or something like that there in a second. We'll get everything else done first. All right, let's make this grip printable first. And I think I'm just going to make it really simple and make it one big, huge piece. So I'm going to take this part here, stick that to there. Same thing with this. This to here. And the trigger also. It's all now one big, huge piece. Do Control C, convert it to a mesh. Move it out here. One big, huge, simple part. Now for printing, there's a few different ways to print this. You can slice it in half and print it that way, which is probably the fastest way to do it. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So I want to do a little trick here, which is, now the simplest way for this to print is like this. That's a really simple kind of print. There shouldn't be any major issues with that. However, you have a lot of support material that's going to be needed, and I absolutely abhor cleaning up support material. So there's a better option for that. That's just to slice it in half. And this is what we use booleans for. I'm going to create a mesh, cube, scale this up. We are going to cut this piece in half. To do that, I want you to zoom in really close and line it up, not quite exactly with this, but just like the slightest bit above it. You don't want to be exactly on the line. You don't want to be below it. Just a hair above it. Just less than a millimeter. You want to slice this in half right there. And take it, slice it in half, just like that. There's another alternative to that, which I will show you now. Instead of slicing it in half, you can have this intersect. So first of all, I want to label this piece from plane 14 to grip, printable grip, like so. And this cube is printable grip half. Boolean modifier, intersection, printable grip. Now, that's going to be half of this object up here. Pretty closely. I'll do the same thing, just so it's slightly there. Then we're going to duplicate this and move it up and get the other half. Just like that. Those are our two halves. If I want to, I can select them both. I can select one, duplicate it again, do Control C, convert it to a mesh, grab the other half, duplicate it again, Control C, convert to mesh. There we are. We have our two halves of the grip. Those should just stick together. You can print them out flat. Just like that. So for arranging my print bed, for this, I'd probably keep these separate because I can print them out in my smaller printer. But there we go. That's the two gun halves right there. Now for the big, huge piece. Big thing here I'm thinking is, okay, how do I print this out and use as little support material as humanly possible? Because I hate support material with a passion. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I don't want it. And right away, I'm actually noticing I missed something. I forgot to add a little groove up here for this piece to insert into. So let's go back and fix that. Back to our gun. Hide our printable parts. Oops. There we go. I'm going to duplicate this and scale it up just a little bit. Move it out a little bit. Scale it this way just slightly and see how this looks to have a, oops. That inserter right there. Oops. What am I doing here? Why is it? Is both of it selected? All right, here we go. I keep accidentally selecting both objects. This happens when you 3D model all day. There we go. Looks like it's a little bit more embedded. Move those to modifiers. Bring our printable parts back. Delete this one. And while we're here, let's pop those modifiers back up. There we go. Let's make this a little less pronounced. It's not quite as the parts aren't quite as deep. Control D, Control C, convert to mesh. Move it up here. All right. Now what's going to be the easiest way to chop this thing up into smaller bits? I think... Actually, I'm going to make another change. I'm going to make this skull... Maybe I'll make this skull a part of it. Or duplicate it. Add another modifier. There we go. That should make the skull fit a little bit better in the end. It's kind of like a little spot for it. That'll be easier. This piece is kind of a little bit of a troublemaker, I think. I'm not quite sure how to fit it. I don't want to deal with much of support material. And especially in here, that can be kind of a pain in the neck. So this part here would be really nice to print this way. But I don't want to deal with support material on top either. The easiest thing to do might be just slice it right in half down the middle. And just kind of deal with the sanding and assembly process after that. It might be the least painful option. I might have to modify the grip a little bit again. I don't think I'm done with the grip. Yeah, let's make the grip. It's modified again. So see, there's a lot of modifications made. As I'm kind of setting it up for export, start noticing little mistakes. So this could probably just be printed as one big piece if you want something really simple. If you've got a big printer. I'd probably print it maybe like this. So you have minimal support material needed. It's just going to be support material in there and down here. That might be the least offensive way to do it. I'd probably print this with like really low support material and then deal with the cleanup process for this piece afterwards. Or you just slice it right in half and print it as two different pieces and glue them together. So we will create both versions of that. So I will create just a standard version. And let's go make some more, let's get some more cubes. If I was going to cut this in half, I'd probably do it maybe about right here. One thing you do with these cubes is you can also figure out what the size of your printer is. Like if you know it's 200 by 200 by 200, you can know kind of a good idea about where to slice the object in half. And also if you can kind of hide the cuts behind the logo, where the logo is going to be, that'll help a lot in sanding. You don't need to do as much finishing with the final piece. So we will call this, while we're here, the gun itself. Why not? Gun half. Or gun top. Boolean. Intersection. Right there. Duplicate it. Control C to apply it. There we have. Nice little section. Select that same piece. Duplicate it. Now if you want the line to be the exact same spot, you can also do this. But if you do that, you have to do a little trick here for the mesh. Normals. Recalculate. Duplicate that. Control C. Convert that right there. And occasionally I might also add some kind of pegs for these so I can figure out where they line up, but that really shouldn't be that big of a problem. It should be pretty simple to do later on. So yeah, now we have a full piece and then the two halves. Now all the little parts. This little skull. Let's merge all this together. It's gonna be a pain to clean up, but you know, whatever. -90. So I think I'm arranging these correctly. I'll double check that later. All right. So when you arrange these, you want to make sure the Z-axis is up. That's the direction in which you're printing. So the bottom of these things should be as flat as possible. That's really, really important. All right, how are we gonna do this piece here? Let's cool thing is I think we can just make this a bunch of individual parts. Or just combine it all together. I'm just gonna combine it all together. I'm gonna be super lazy. Control P, Control P, and apply it. So, rotate it up. Top of the gun. These little barrel pieces are going to be the same thing. I'm going to rotate them up. Rotate this. Now, a big thing about all these little parts is that no matter how much foresight you have, no matter how much work you do in organizing these parts, you're going to miss something. You're going to make some kind of tiny little mistake. It's going to screw up your print. And you're going to have to go back and redo everything. And nothing wrong with that. It's kind of a pain, but it's not a big deal. P, will separate this selection. So we'll do a little thing here. As I say, I hate having support material. So instead of having support material on this, I am going to make a little hole here. Scale this out just a tad. Let's do that first. Scale this a little bit. Extrude it up. There. So I'm going to make this two separate pieces. No support material. Just glue them together. They're nice and easy. We want to make sure the butt bases of these line up because I want to make these, I'm going to export these as one piece. So they're just kind of together. And the fans. So we need two fans to print out. And if you want, you can actually pop over here, create an array of two. That's how you can kind of remember to print two of them. Anything where there's two. This here would probably print just fine. like that. Again, along the z-axis, we're going to get the best resolution. So it's good for little like curves. And you won't have to deal with any support material. Because for the 80th time, I hate support material. All right, let's just make these one big piece. Apply it. There we go. So that could probably print out as one part. That'll probably be okay. That might require some support material, but it shouldn't be that difficult to clean off. And if it is, we can cut it in half later on. And we also very easily turn this into a removable clip by adding a couple of magnets. We'll deal with that later. And our skull. Two Inquisitor symbols. And for these, we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Create an array of, say, 7. Another array. There we go. That should be plenty. Arrange all of our parts to look kind of pretty. It's kind of fun to do. Wish there was a good way to put these all on the same plane. I'm sure there is. I just don't know what it is. There we go. There's our gun split up into a bunch of tiny little pieces. Do a tiny bit of more organization here. You've probably already tuned out at this point. And I'm talking to nothing. But for those who have remained, you can see a little bit of how I kind of arrange things. My screenshots. Now let's go get a copy of the gun. Kind of cool to merge everything together into one, or just kind of arrange them together so you can see them all sort of side by side. All right, there you go. For the glory of the Emperor, we are finished. I'll put a little asterisk next to finished because the truth is as soon as you print this thing out, you're going to start noticing that you made some mistakes, that you made some problems. And you're inevitably going to have a second version of this. You're going to have to make some tiny little tweak to some file. But that's fine. That's okay. It's not that big of a deal. The Emperor protects. Can't even spell. There we go. All done. And finished. If you want to get a prettier screenshot, you can now add in some fun lighting effects. Or like, let's do something like that. Yeah. That's pretty, right? How about... Probably still like, wait, is he just now rambling and modifying all this stuff? Answer is yes, I am. Ah, and red. That looks awesome. All done. Now, if you've liked this video, this is my very, very first video. Hopefully there's no mistakes in it. Hopefully I don't say a whole bunch. Hopefully I don't say hopefully too much. I was hoping to keep this thing under an hour and a half. It's probably turned into about 3 hours. So I expect very few people have made it this far. But if you have, feel free to let me know what you think of this video. And I'm hoping to make more videos like this. And if I get a good response to this, I'll continue to make stuff. And if you have any suggestions or recommendations or ideas about things you would like to see me do videos of, please let me know. And I would love to make those things. I'd like to make some stuff that's not just guns. I might make some swords. I might make some tiaras. I might make some staffs. I might make some Hello Kitty stuff. Whatever you think might be kind of cool. The best thing about all this 3D modeling stuff and 3D printing stuff is that teaching yourself to make a gun will teach you how to make a scepter. Will teach you how to make a staff. It's all the same skills. It's all the same techniques. Everything works for everything else. And so, yeah, here's your first step into a larger world. I am Rarbomb, signing off.